up in front of me in the form of the Nkuhumas. I've just bear with me one moment. I just want to think about how we're going to do this. I think we need to go around. Got one lioness there, and it looks like the rest of the cubs are hiding off in the bushes over there. There we go. There's one lioness looking very sleepy. I've also heard a report of the missing two females, so Amber Eyes and the young female, and where they are exactly. We're just going to do some shuffling around, waving hello to Lex. Let me get out of his way. Which way is he going? Is he going left? Is he going right? Backwards? Which way are we going to go? He's making space for us. What a gentleman. Thanks so much, Lex. Hi, everybody. There we go. Can you still see? Sure. Okay, perfect. Thank you. There we go. A view of the lions. Thanks very much to Lex for letting us know where they are. I'm going to be speaking quite softly, just because I don't want to disturb the other vehicle, and the lions themselves, of course. And Winter Prison, you of course wondering, I heard from Taylor this morning, you're wondering if there's any word on the missing cub. Apparently this morning, for those of you who missed the sunrise safari, there were only 7 cubs, and all 3 mothers were present and accounted for. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can only see 6 at the moment. That doesn't mean that the 7th isn't somewhere around here. I cannot tell. It's quite dense vegetation that they're in. Oh, what's happening there? Big yawn. So unfortunately, no, I can't tell you if the 8th cub has materialized, if it has rejoined the rest of the pride. It's such a difficult thing. We, of course, have become so attached to all 8 cubs, and certainly that cub could be absolutely alive and well. Remember when the 2 of them went missing and they rejoined the rest of the pride about 3 days later? That could well still happen with this missing cub. Might just have got slightly delayed, perhaps distracted by something exciting. So we're not going to worry too much yet, but unfortunately it would be extraordinary for the Nkuhumas to have managed to have raised all 8 cubs successfully, with a mortality rate of way over 50% before the lion cubs reach adulthood on average, and that's just on average. It would have been a very, very impressive feat indeed. But I'm still hopeful. I'm still hoping that the 8th cub might materialize out of the bush, perhaps just got a little bit too brave and went missing for a little while, in which case I really hope they manage to find it again. But it's impossible for us to know for sure, and we may never know the answer to that mystery. Right now I can only count 6 very peaceful-looking lion cubs. Fast asleep. While our lions snooze the afternoon away, let's go and see if James has got something exciting up his sleeve. No rain just yet, although I have to say that the southern, what's it called? Horizon, that's what it's called, definitely looked like it was going to rain a little bit, but that's good. That is good news for our amazing lion cubs. There you go, you can see the clouds. There's still a little bit of light poking through and shining down upon us, but it does seem to be getting darker and darker by the second. But for our lions, particularly these Nkuhuma cubs with mange, that rain, any rain, is going to be an amazing thing. It will help to wash it away. Oh, Brian, on the top of the tree there, on the dead tree, could it be? Oh, It's a brown-headed kingfisher. I got excited for a moment, but actually now in hindsight, woodlands kingfishers are much, much larger than that. I thought we'd seen our first woodlands. I got very, very excited. Equally as cool. That is not to say that this poor brown-hooded kingfisher is not in any way as amazing, but it is not quite what I was aiming for. I was going for the first woodlands kingfisher of the season. Sorry, kingfisher, I didn't mean to insult you. You're still lovely and still very beautiful. Oh, choop, 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 choop. What a lovely call. Cheep, cheep, cheep. Well, one of the reasons that we focus on watching a bird like that making that call is that for those of you who are really trying to learn all of the different bird calls of this area, seeing the actual bird making the call, I promise you, is the best way of cementing the calls in your mind. So for when you're watching the dam camera and you can't see the bird calling, that's the best way to go about it. Right, so that was a brown-hooded kingfisher. I was talking about the rain in our... Oh, sorry. Just listening to the Game Drive channel, which is crucial to the way we do things. But yes, with the mange, which I think the Nkuhuma cubs are really, truly throwing off, they're going to recover, they're going to get better. But the rain will most definitely help the things along, help to wash it away, and obviously bring relief to them as well. So earlier on we were talking about the missing cub, and I said I could only count 6. I was mistaken. I can count 7. You can see when you've got a pile of cubs just like this, all tangled together, it gets a little bit more tricky in terms of distinguishing one from the other. But if we look really closely, there we go. That is the 7th Nkuhuma cub in a bundle of patch just behind the fallen log. So there's 7 of them here. Oh, our lioness is up. Big stretch. Already looking hungry and empty-bellied, even though they've just finished off a massive buffalo bull in the last 3 or so days. And I think the presence of the 2 males would most definitely have reduced the amount of food that they were able to eat. We can guarantee that this evening they will be hunting, but they might even hunt this afternoon. Just searching for a slightly more comfortable spot and a slightly less visible one. Now, Renee, you want to know why is it that the lions do not run away from our vehicle? And the answer to that, Renee, is that they have no reason to fear us. And these lions, just like these cubs, I mean, we've been watching these cubs since they were very, very small. All of the big cats of the Sabi Sand have grown up from being tiny cubs with the presence of vehicles in their lives, and they have learnt that we do not mean, oh, cute, bit of a head rub there. They have learned that we don't mean them any kind of threat or any danger. We're not going to hurt them. We're not going to get too close to them. We're not going to scare them. They've come to trust us, essentially, and we've become, well, maybe, yes, trust, I suppose, is a good way of describing it. But we're a part of their environment. We're not quite like a tree or a termite mound, which is the analogy I sometimes use, because, of course, we move, and the vehicle does make a little bit of noise, and it does smell a little bit different. So it would be impossible to say that they're not aware of us, but they're not in any way bothered by us. As you can tell, I mean, just look at them. They couldn't look more comfortable and peaceful, although I'm not so sure that that one cub is that comfortable, kicking its cousin in the head to try and shift it off. I think that little cub has found the perfect pillow. Doesn't that look comfortable, Brian? Sort of. Yeah. Sort of. It looks a bit slippery, like it can't quite rest its head comfortably. I'm going to sit patiently here and wait for the little lion cubs to start gambling about, as they are wont to do on these cool, cloudy days. Let's go across to Brent. I heard he was looking for leopards, or helping Steph and Herbie look for leopards. Let's go see if he's succeeded. Unfortunately, it doesn't look as though the one is back at the moment. I've still only managed to count 7. This little one has gone from one female to the other while we've been sitting here looking for a place to suckle, and has finally settled upon the female that is closest to us. I was quite surprised when I came back to still see that some of the females were lactating. I'm not sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure if all of the females are lactating, or all three mothers are lactating, or if it's only a couple of them remaining, one or two, that are still producing milk, or if it is all three. If it is all three, I'm very, very impressed with them. I suppose, though, they've had plenty of access to food and nutrients. She looks so peaceful. Paws crossed, not a care in the world. You can just see hidden in the tufts of black fur those claw sheaths that hide those razor-sharp claws of hers. Our lionesses don't seem to be terribly concerned with the fact that they have missed or have lost one of their number. They weren't terribly concerned the last time either that two of them went missing. And Monique in London, as always, welcome to the Sunset Safari. You want to know if we know whether the missing cub is part of the older, middle, or teddy bear cub litter. And Monique, I'm honestly not sure. I've actually been trying to work it out myself. But it's quite, especially when they're flat like this, it's actually relatively difficult to tell the difference between the different litters. So for those of you that have joined us for the first time, perhaps this is your first time seeing the Nkuhuma cubs, you might not know just how many there are. There are 8 of them, but they belong to 3 different mothers, so 3 different litters. Oldest being about 6 months nearly old. No, that can't be right. 5.5 months? It's nearly 6 months old. The middle one's just a little bit younger than them, and then the teddy bear, or the youngest set of cubs, are about a month younger than that. So it's quite easy to tell the littlest ones, and I'm pretty sure I've counted all 3 little ones. I'm just trying to work out if that's... It's just this puddle of cubs in front of me that's a bit difficult to tell. I think that the cub facing us, lying on its left-hand side, I think that's one of the littlest cubs. And then I definitely know, yes, that one there on the right, I think is one of the littler ones. And then I definitely know that the one hidden behind the log that we now can't see at all is a little cub, is a teddy bear cub litter. That was James's phrase, by the way. He coined that term, and I think it was entirely fair. This one here, you can just see the tip of an ear, if you look really closely. Tip of an ear, that is also a little one. And then I suspect that the one that is... Which one is the one that's suckling? This isn't one of the littler ones. I think this is one of the middle ones. Monique, after that long-winded explanation, to be completely honest, I'm not sure. I don't know which one is missing. I think it might be one of the oldest ones, but I really, really am not 100% confident in that. And of course, because I haven't had a good chance to have a look at their bottoms or underneath their tails, I don't even know if the missing one is a male or female. We know that we've got 3 males and 5 females, thanks to the dedicated work of our viewers in order to sex them when we first started seeing them all together. But I don't know which one's missing. We'll have to wait and see. The lucky thing is, of course, that it's quite cool this afternoon, so there's a chance that at some point, a little bit later, they might decide to get up and start playing, and being slightly more energetic, as lion cubs often are. As James has told us before, lion cubs always seem to be very busy. When they're awake, they're always up to something, whether it's chewing and attacking a piece of grass or leaf or twig, or a sibling or a cousin, jumping and tree climbing, practicing all the things they're going to need to be able to do. Look how big their feet are. I know we often remark upon this, but they just seem to have such enormously big feet. Like big dog puppies. Great Danes and the like, with their enormous, vast, almost clown-sized feet in comparison to the rest of them. Such big paws. They've just got to grow into them now. All in all, this is a thoroughly contented scene, and absolutely beautiful. We're so lucky that we can sit and enjoy these moments in their lives. Twitching. Don't see a fly there. That might even been a dream twitch. Well, since our lion cubs don't seem to be up to terribly much right this moment, I think it's time we sent you back across to Steph, who for some reason is digging. No cub has come back. Unfortunately, we are still with just 7 Nkuhuma cubs. However, we have lost one other member, which is a female who has gone across to have a drink towards the Djuma Dam. So for those of you, James included, who are watching the Djuma Dam camera, keep an eye out. She could pop out any moment now. I think she might be on her way to have a drink. The rest of them are sort of showing signs of stirring. I'm seeing the odd yawn, the odd tail flick. Somebody definitely doesn't want to get up, though. Could you imagine a more relatable expression on a little lion cub's face just before it has to get up and start moving around? Clearly just wants to stay in bed for 5 more minutes, especially when it's got such a comfortable pillow/hot water bottle to keep it warm and cozy. There's no such thing as your personal space bubble when you are a lion cub, or any kind of a lion. They're quite happy to just lie on top of each other. Just goes to show just how tightly bonded the members of the Pride truly are. Thoroughly asleep. And as the cubs snooze away, every now and again I see a head up, the odd yawn, but the females don't seem to be too keen on joining their pride mate when she heads across to have a drink. They are still fast asleep. There's one that's settled a little bit further behind the vehicle. There we go. Now, at first when the female got up, I thought perhaps she might be on her way to go and hunt something. But the lackluster response of the other 2 females, the other 2 adult females, suggests to me that maybe she's just gone to go and have a drink. And it's amazing how this wordless communication works between different members of a pride. And Camira, that brings us into the answer to your question, which is, why do lions have black on the back of their ears? And the answer is they have black on the back of their ears and the back of their tails because it's a color that stands out most clearly given their coloration. You can see how in this sort of light, or any sort of light, and in this dense vegetation, the black sticks out very, very clearly. And there's a couple of reasons behind that. One is that the most important body parts in terms of a lion's body language, and they can't talk to each other, but they do talk in the form of body language, and most of that is done through the face, the ears, and the tail. Yes, body posture also plays a big role, but the ears play an essential part of that communication. I don't know if you have any dogs or cats at home, Camira, or perhaps you're a horse person and you happen to have interacted a lot with horses. But you know that an ear or a tail flick can tell you all you need to know about your pet's mood. And if you see an animal with its ears flat back, you know that they're not happy, or the tail thrashing, you know they're not happy. And it works exactly the same way with lions. However, lions, of course, as a social hunter, have taken this one step further, and there's a lot of evidence to suggest that lions actually coordinate their hunts using the twitches of their ears. Now, of course, that'll take a long time to prove, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if that were the case. Makes total sense to me, because if you've ever watched a lion hunt, it is one of the most incredibly coordinated things you can witness in the bush. And I don't know how they do it. Somehow they just know when to stay put, when to move, when to go somewhere. The way that they move about, fan out or stay together, is absolutely, truly poetry to watch. And all done, of course, without one single word. And that's because they don't need to make a sound. They can communicate through the language of their bodies. Well, that's why they have the black on the back of their ears. The tail also helps cubs to follow them. The emphasis on the black of the back of the tail will also help cubs to follow them when the cubs are still relatively little, especially if they're moving through thick, tall grass. She definitely doesn't have any hunting on her mind, though. And if you want a slightly more humorous sort of interpretation of a lion hunt and the way in which they communicate with each other, you might want to have a look at Billy Connolly's The Wildebeest Hunt. Not now, please. Don't disappear from our show just to go and watch it right now. But if you do find yourself looking for entertainment after our live safaris, or after our sunset safari, please feel free to go and Google Billy Connolly's The Wildebeest and the way that he describes the movement of the lionesses. Definitely not for those of you, though, that are sensitive to any kind of profanity, just to put a warning out there for you. Sorry, I'm now giggling to myself thinking about it and trying to snap back my attention back to the present. Our lion cubs are well and truly relaxed on this gorgeous afternoon, and it seems as though Brent has made his way back across to the Princess of Djuma. Let's go and have a look at a cub of a different kind. I second that, which is why it's always a very, very good reason to sit patiently and wait for the action to start. And just bear with me one moment, I was right in the middle of a conversation, so just hold on one second. On the Game Drive channel, it's the way in which we communicate amongst guides to share information, and Lex was trying to get hold of me. Copy that. Thanks very much, Lex. I've got a lioness that's parked herself basically under my wheels, so I'm not going anywhere just yet. It's a negative. I'm still with the rest of the pride. Lex had called me because I did ask the other guides earlier if they could let me know if there were any elephants about. He has found some elephants not too far away from where we are. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, fortunately, the lions are so incredibly comfortable with our presence that the second female has plopped herself down there, which is my only way in or out of this particular spot. I can't really go forwards because I'm going to go tumbling down a hill, and obviously I can't go backwards because there's a lioness there. Right there. Even starting up the engine at this point might give her a little bit of a shock. So rather than do that, we're just going to sit patiently, aren't we, Brian? We're just going to wait. Perhaps the elephants will come to us. Hello, gorgeous. Lions were showing signs of stirring, but they seem to have decided against it. As we sit with 7 out of 8 Nkuhuma cubs. That's your tail, little one, you silly thing. Cindy, you wanted to know if the lionesses realized that they have a missing cub. Well, that was a matter for much debate when the 2 went missing a couple of weeks ago and only turned up after about 3 or so days. Cindy, we won't ever know for absolute sure exactly what is going on in the minds of the lionesses. Personally, I think that when they have a number of cubs to keep track of, I don't necessarily think that they realize they're missing 1 or 2. Certainly the whole lot, absolutely, they'll know that there's no cubs with them. But when it's 1 or 2 out of 8, I don't think lionesses can count, and I'm not 100% sure that they realize that they've missed one. But I'm not 100% sure on that, and I think that the older the cubs get, the more they will become an integral aspect or an integral part of the pride. So there are people that disagree with me, and I honestly can't say whether or not I'm correct on this. The reason I say that they don't seem to realize is that they don't seem to be concerned at all. They don't seem to call, they don't seem to be looking. They're perfectly relaxed and content, and we can't, on a cold day like today, they could easily be moving around and looking for a missing cub, and they aren't. And it makes me think it's not that they don't care, I just don't think that they realize. It's an entirely different story when a lioness is denning and she's got 3 little cubs, for example, and then if one of them were to go missing then I think that they would realize. But I don't know, and I'd be very eager to hear what James said. However, he has taken my words to heart and has been watching closely to the Djuma Dam camera. Let's go and have a look and see what he has found there.
Zumi, you're doing an excellent job of keeping up with that lioness, and I was hoping that there might be a cub with the lioness, but there doesn't seem to be. She seems to be on her own. Now, as far as I'm aware, Jamie's got 3 with her. This one is now going north, up Mvubu Road, straight towards the rest of those lions. Where the other lioness is, I don't know, quite possibly mating with one of the Birmingham boys. Perhaps this one is returning from a failed hunt. Oh, Jamie's only got 2 lionesses, so perhaps this one went for a drink in a puddle somewhere. That's well possible. Now, for those of you who do keep an eye on the dam cam, can we ask Mr. Zumi, whoever you are right now, to zoom all the way out, if you don't mind, or once you've lost sight of the lion. And I just want to show you something. because many of you, of course, keep an eye on the dam cam, and it's wonderful stuff, and it's great you give us information in the mornings, especially when we go out, and it's lovely to know what was seen. That lioness is heading north up Mvubu Road. So sometimes it's very difficult to tell exactly what's going on and where the lions are and what direction they're moving. So she's moving up north up Mvubu Road. If she was to turn 90 degrees to the right-hand side, she would be going due east. And if she was walking straight towards the camera now, she'd be walking pretty much due west. There she goes. That's really wonderfully done. Well done, Zumi. In fact, you can see that's one of the mothers, can't you? You can see that she's still got very swollen teats. And then if she had been going the opposite direction, of course, she would be heading due south. So that's quite a nice way of showing it, because I think it sometimes can get a little bit confusing, especially if there's no sun. It's quite difficult to tell where on earth those lions are and what they're doing. So that
A herd of impala has just stumbled through into the sighting. Oh, they've just realized. I was wondering when that was going to happen. Sorry to rush you across, but we just couldn't run the risk of missing out on a lion hunt, and she'd gone completely flat behind our vehicle. We couldn't reposition in any way. Now, an impala is not exactly a boon for these lions at the moment, but they are never one to pass up the opportunity for a quick meal. An impala would be gone in the blink of an eye if they had happened to catch one. But unfortunately for them, they just weren't quite quick enough off the mark, and there wasn't quite enough cover for them to have managed to approach in that way. And they were perfectly downwind of those impalas, so there's no way that the impala would have even realized. If they hadn't seen them, there was no way they would have smelt the presence of the lions. So there was a moment there where we were all frozen in expectation. Sorry, just bear with me 1 second. Standing by. Yes, have you caught on, madam? She didn't even realize. Sorry, please go again with that. Are you welcome to make your way in? I think that's what he was asking me. And she was fast asleep. She had no idea those impala were there until they ran away. They have now vanished off into the distance, and we find ourselves once again with a relatively peaceful lion sighting. And that's the joy of live, of course, is that we don't know which direction things are going to take. We just have to stop and wait for them to unfold in the way that they do. And for now, the lion cubs could not be more bothered. Their mothers will, however, as it does start to get darker, they are going to get up and start hunting. I've noticed a few of the cubs are already looking like they could use a meal, despite the fact that their moms caught them a buffalo. What was that? Lioness up and looking. Now, the lioness that you saw on the dam camera with James, she is on her way towards us as we speak. So she might actually encounter that impala herd herself, and possibly even potentially chase it back in this direction. And now it's just a sit and wait game as the lions reunite once again. I haven't seen her returning to us, so we just have to wait our turn. Well, since all is calm down here and there's no sign on to obviously go and have a drink, or perhaps scout out and see whether there were any potential hunting opportunities, but all three are reunited once again, for which two cubs in particular seem to be rather thankful as they settle down and tuck into the evening meal. And scenes like this might not be described as overly exciting or action-packed, but they are a moment to just really truly enjoy the beauty of an evening like this evening. From the view of the moon that we just had, to these suckling, contented cubs, and one always tolerant mom. Oh, big stretch. All cats and dogs have the ability to stretch like that. What you found? Nothing terribly exciting. have a feeling that these lions are not going to be moving off just yet. So let's go to James, who of course has the amazing capacity to give you a really close-up view of some very interesting things. Spoilt, I think, is definitely a very, very good way to describe exactly what it is we are. We just whipped you across to have one last view of the lions before we move off. As you can see, it is starting to get relatively dark, and we're going to start heading back towards the main camp. Uh-oh. What's wrong, Cub? What happened there? Shame. I think it got something in its foot. That was not very coordinated at all, was it? But yes, we are slowly but surely starting to run out of light, and for our newer viewers, what that means is that we cannot linger too much longer. We cannot spotlight a group of cubs of this age, so we don't want to impact their lives in any way, shape or form, and adding the extra level of spotlight distraction at night just isn't fair on them. So we will be pulling out of the sighting in a moment, and we'll start trundling back towards James in the tent. Look at you. They stand restless, even though they're flat. Even though this lioness is lying on her side, you can always tell when lionesses or a group of lions is thinking about moving. From the licking of the paws, nibbling away at the nails, just making sure that their feet are in good condition. And when they start to yawn as well, that's when you know that movement is imminent. And Zentile, there we go. That brings us to the answer to your question, which is, do lions sleep at night or do they hunt? It's very much, sorry, I heard whatever she heard, which I think was an elephant actually, moving around in the vegetation behind us. It's very much dependent on the circumstances. So yes, for the most part, lions are nocturnal hunters. They are almost always, when they do hunt, it is almost always at night or on a cloudy day, and that's because they can't cope with hot temperatures of our daytimes here in Africa. However, they will, if they have a kill, they're quite content to, if it's a big kill, something like a buffalo or giraffe perhaps, they're quite happy to just nap away throughout the evening. But for the most part, they are nocturnal animals, and that is when they actually truly come into their own and truly become the apex predator of this area. And as I make my way out of the sighting, as it starts to get a little bit dark, we're going to start heading out. We're going to head across to Brent and his gorgeous leopard cubs.